Good morning, friends. Welcome to Faith and Arrow Homestead. My name is Jaylee, and today I want to have a little chat with you about sourdough. We're not diving into it too deep because, to be honest with you, I'm not very experienced with it yet, but I have a really tasty beginner's hack that I want to share with you. But first, I want to give you a little bit of information about sourdough so that you can understand why I recommend you doing this in the first place. Sourdough is packed with nutrients. It provides healthy carbs, fiber, protein, and vitamins like iron and folate. Sourdough is also an excellent source of antioxidants, and antioxidants are known to help prevent cancer, aging, chronic diseases, and things like that. The reason I like sourdough so much is because through the fermentation process, the vitamins that are present in sourdough bread are actually more easily absorbed by the body versus just eating a regular piece of bread. This is actually due to the presence of lactic acid in the bread and the way that they interact with the nutrients. So in this bread, you'll find folate, potassium, magnesium, and others, and these vitamins are actually more easily absorbed when you're consuming them through sourdough. And that lactic acid is also what's responsible for the presence of antioxidants in the sourdough bread. And lastly, sourdough also acts as a prebiotic, which means it actually helps feed the good bacteria present in your gut. And this just helps your overall digestive health. So for me, there are plenty of things that make sourdough worth eating, especially if I'm going to be eating bread anyway. I used to make for the longest time I was making my own sandwich bread, and I have a piece of toast, or rather a piece of bread, I guess, every single morning with my breakfast. And finally, here's the day, guys. I'm showing you what I have for breakfast. I have eaten roughly the same breakfast for literally years. I'd say since middle school, I've had the same breakfast, and it's altered slightly over the years, but the staple items have remained the same, and I'm still not sick of it. I absolutely adore this breakfast, and I'm going to show it to you now. So I have my cast iron pan, and I have my sourdough starter. I'm not teaching you how to make a sourdough starter in this video. I probably will someday, but not now. I'm still in the process of figuring this out myself. But last night when I fed my sourdough, it was here where the rubber band is, and you can see I keep it on top of my fridge, and overnight it doubled, and it's got lots of nice happy little bubbles. And this sourdough is definitely, the starter is ready to be used this morning. And also, I love the smell of my sourdough starter, so good. So here I have my cast iron, my well-seasoned cast iron pan. Turn on my stove. I've got half a stick of butter here, and I just kind of do what works. I don't have any like professional process or anything, but I just kind of pull back the paper, and I like to, even though it's well-seasoned, I always just put a thin layer of butter because butter is good for you as well, and I enjoy consuming it, and it also just gives what I'm about to make a really nice kind of golden brown color. I love butter. Okay, now I just want to go on the record by saying I did not come up with this. I heard about this on a YouTube page called Pro Home Cooks. I've linked them in a previous video, and I'll link them in this one too. I like this guy. He is just very good in the kitchen and has all sorts of great tips. So I was watching one of his sourdough videos, and he said, hey, you know, when you're discarding some of your sourdough to feed it, don't throw that away. That's perfectly good sourdough starter that you can eat. And that was music to my ears. That literally changed the game for me in terms of sourdough, because where I am in life right now, I just don't have time to give sourdough the time and attention it deserves. I tried one time to make sourdough bread. It tasted good, but it didn't rise properly, so I didn't do something right. And it's trial and error. Sourdough is a more complex bread making technique, and it takes practice, and I just haven't had the time to commit to it lately. But I still want to consume it, and I still want all of those nutrients that are available in it, and I wanted to add it to my diet. So this was perfect. This was the perfect way for me to still consume sourdough without having to spend a bunch of time and energy on it. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because this was just a passing mention in his video. But it just stood out so strongly to me. And so if you're a sourdough beginner, if you have a starter that's active, but you're intimidated by making bread, or you just don't have time to make bread, you can still get the benefits and you can still consume it by doing what I'm about to show you right now. So his suggestion was adding, so get your cast iron, get a little bit of butter in there. I have some rosemary, some fresh rosemary here that I chopped up that I'm going to just sprinkle in my pan. And this was the way that he made it, but you can make it however you want. You don't have to use rosemary. You can use whatever herb. You don't have to use herbs. You could just do salt. You could do salt and pepper. You can honestly do whatever you want. But I like to do rosemary and sea salt. And I just sprinkle these things in the pan with the butter. It's probably too much salt. Remember that a good quality salt is also good for you. You need salt. Your body needs salt. That's another one of those items that they have convinced us is bad for us. And yes, sodium, too much sodium can be bad for you, but salt is a mineral and we need it. So don't totally cut it out of your diet. This is my designated sourdough fork. So I have, my pan is nice and warm. I've got my salt, I've got my rosemary, I've got my butter, and I just take my sourdough starter and like turn it upside down and plop it out. And then I take my fork and spread it around the pan, and I end up getting like a humongous piece of bread. Sometimes if it's like a Saturday morning and I'm feeding Tom too, I'll be more careful to do half of what's in the jar instead of this whole thing so that I can make one for him and one for me. Or I guess I could just do one big one and cut it in half, whatever. And I have learned the reason I'm spreading it out is because I've done this, I've been doing this for a few weeks now, and if you don't, the middle gets real like chewy and undercooked, and I'm not a fan of that. So I've noticed that by spreading it out, I can get a more consistent chew throughout. And so now I've used most of what was in there, and I need to do like a heavy feed now. But this is fine. Even just having like, what is that? Maybe a tablespoon really? This is enough, more than enough to get this to activate and to keep going. Also, one more thing I'll mention while this is cooking. I feed my sourdough starter half a cup of flour and a fourth a cup and like roughly a tablespoon of warm water. I'll feed it like that in the morning after I use what's in there. And then at night, I won't discard any, and I'll just add another half a cup of flour and another fourth cup plus a tablespoon of warm water. And that has been working out fine for me because I don't want to discard any at night when I feed it because I want to get the bulk back up, the volume back up. And that's been working out for me. I don't know if that's proper, but I've not had any issues with that. So I just let this cook. I want to show it to you here so you can get an idea of what we're dealing with. So as you can see, we have all these delicious little bubbles in here, and that's exactly what you want to see from your sourdough. And the edges are starting to get a little firm, and it'll be ready to flip here very shortly. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and give this a flip. If it's not done enough on the side, we can always flip it back, but I want to show it to you. Oh no, that looks so good. And so you can see all of the browned bits from where the butter was in there. That adds such a good flavor. And then you've got the rosemary, the salts in there, and this is just gonna be so, so tasty. All right, so I've got my plate, and this is my breakfast. I don't know if I mentioned that. What I'm doing here, oh, by the way, here, really quick, I always just kind of take it and run it around the pan before I take it out, because if I miss any little bits of rosemary or salt, I want it. So I just kind of run it around, and then I take it out, put it on my plate. My cast iron is going to be really hot. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it's smoking. So I just turn the heat off because I actually don't need any more heat. I'm going to come back with the butter and do that again, just to get another layer. I've got 2 eggs here from my ladies, and I'm going to crack those into this still very, very warm cast iron pan. I enjoy my eggs over easy, I guess, so I just leave those for a second. While the eggs are cooking, I've got my plate with my sourdough. I call it a sourdough flatbread, and I think that that's a pretty accurate name for it. Here I have in-brine feta cheese, organic. I love feta. I love the saltiness of a feta. And so I always just like take a chunk out because it's like it's a block. And then I just break it up over the flatbread. So tasty. I love this. Guys, I eat this for breakfast every single day. The only exception is if it's the weekend and I'm feeling froggy and I make some pancakes or something. Otherwise, I eat this every day. Okay, I like my yolks runny, super runny. So I don't leave these in here for very long before I give them a flip. And this is a fun fact for you, which I'm about to jinx myself, but I want to tell you. I've been getting eggs from my girls since, what was it, November, I think? And it's March, about to be April. I have never, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, I've never had an egg yolk break, ever. And if you are somebody who likes over easy eggs or over medium eggs, sunny side up eggs, you know that that's a big deal. And eggs from the store, I would have them break every other day. And it would be so frustrating. And I won't eat it. I don't like scrambled eggs. As soon as the yolk breaks, I give it to Benny and I crack another egg. And so that would always really annoy me. But with my girls' eggs, I have never, ever had a yolk break. And that is like, that's one of my favorite things about their eggs. I love that. So I flipped them just a second ago, but again, I like the yolk really runny. And so I scoop them out and put them right on top of the flatbread with the feta cheese on it. And just think about all the flavors that we have. We have plenty of butter. We've got the rosemary. We've got the salt. We've got the feta cheese. We've got the homegrown eggs from my backyard. And this is just such, I'm starting my day with so much nutrients. And the sourdough is helping make the nutrients that I'm consuming across the board more bioavailable and easier for my body to absorb. The bread itself is easier to digest because it's fermented. This is nourishing my body. This is not junk food. This is not something that I'm eating just to get through my day. This is kicking my day off really, really well. It's making my stomach happy right from the start. And so I wanted to share this with you because not only is it a delicious breakfast that I can completely endorse and stand behind, but it's also a really great way for somebody who is starting out, a total sourdough amateur like myself, to still get the sourdough benefits without having to stress about making bread, always having bread ready. Obviously, if you had kids or something and you were trying to feed them sourdough, this wouldn't be quite as manageable, and you're probably better off having sourdough bread. And I will eventually learn how to make sourdough bread, but I've been working so much overtime at the hospital, I just haven't had time, but I still want to consume it, and this has been my solution. Fun fact, I took a little bit of my sourdough starter with me to Florida when we visited Tom's sister, and I fed it using the flour she had in her house, and I still had this for breakfast in Florida every single morning I was there. So anyway, I hope that you found this useful and helpful and got a little bit of inspiration from this. If you have not yet dabbled in sourdough and you have been thinking about it, I hope that this can motivate you to give it a shot, because I know how super intimidating it is, and you know, the fear of failure can keep you from even starting. But now that you see that there is a really easy way that you can kind of dip your toe in the water and get your feet wet and become comfortable with it before you dive in completely, I hope that motivates you to get started in the first place. I love sourdough. I love the flavor. I love how good it is for my body, and I encourage you to add it to your diet as well. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. Please subscribe if you have not. Stick around to see my future content. Have faith, my friends, and keep moving forward. Bye.